Hi guys, how's everybody doing today? I see by my time everybody has already left, but it's okay, does not matter. If I have 10 people or 10,000, I'll still give you the same level of energy. So with everyone, Desi, shall we start? So obviously our theme for today is curiosity is the only currency. And by currency, we don't mean the money. It's goodwill. Okay. So I'll be using a bit of an analogy to explain today's session. Since I was given a wonderful introduction, and as you already know, I do more the core artist sessions. And after every session, I have a line of students who come up to me to form a relationship, to network. So the curiosity there is very little, okay? But how do they convert that curiosity into a currency that can pay them in a good, healthy relationship for the rest of their life is what we're going to talk about today. So Ari, it's a pattern that I've noticed everywhere I'm gone. In a month, I think almost 15 sessions is what I deliver. And after every session, I will have a line of students coming up to me, coming up and say, "Hi, sir. This is my startup. Could you please give me $1 million?" And I'm like, "Sorry, is it a bhel puri that I can just offer you on a piece of platter here? No? And you can't just send me a DM on LinkedIn and be like, 'Hi, sir. My name is XYZ, and this is my business pitch deck. Please, when are you going to invest?'" And I get so uncomfortable because of this that they don't understand what the real currency is. The real currency is how do you develop that relationship? And the relationship can't happen overnight. Just because all of you know me today wouldn't mean that you and me can get on that talking term right away. Okay? So we will discuss this how you can create the real currency, which is intangible, but it will last you a lifetime. As I already spoke about how after every talk, people will walk up and they will cut that which, ask your funds, contacts. You go, "Hi sir, do you know Mr. Lashkil Brower or do you know Mr. Dipinder Goyal? Can you give me his number?" Or else they would ask me for my number too, but do you think I should be giving my number to everybody? Right? So the right approach for that is to actually use the professional platform to get my attention or people like us to be able to get their attention and earn that currency part. Okay. So if they're not curious, then we're not interested. Or it's vice versa. So, and that's how you will get the access. Uh, so how do they get into the ruins where all the big people hang out? People, everybody is curious. How do I go to the biggest superstars? Boom. I've always seen him from far away, but if I bump into him at the airport, I would go and probably be fanboy, right? But what would he do? He'd be like, "Please give me my space," right? So how do you earn that currency through curiosity? Probably you meet them often, you get noticed, you try to build a healthy relationship by, having meaningful conversations with them. So that's the only way that these doors to these big rooms will open. It's not like from day one I've had the access to these rooms. I've had to earn it. It does not mean just because you may have money in your pocket, it may open the doors for you. No, money does not work. Hence, the currency is your goodwill, is how you create that relationship by networking. So, money is called the real currency. And this is not necessarily in respect to the startup ecosystem. It's also in respect of the fact that if you have to build your relationship with the head of your college, right? And you need to be able to go through the channel to be able to climb that hierarchy. So, you need to be able to ask the right questions. And you can't just straight away be like, if I'm older than you, you can't be like, "Hey, bro, what's up?" Right? I'm straight away going to be like, this is the kind of person I need to play by. But if you're going to have the right healthy approach, because communication is super important, how you modulate your voice, how your body language is, how you dress, because I believe light travels faster than sound. So before you start talking, it's how you look is what is perceived by everyone. That's why some of us have four eyes, some of us have two eyes. That was just a joke. But the point is, it is how you are is how you're perceived. So don't just focus on adding people, having XYZ number of followers on Instagram or LinkedIn, or having 10,000 contacts in your phone. They're all useless. You have to be your own representative. That way you walk, you are a brand. Irrespective of, as our friend here said, what you wear, if it's expensive, cheap, it does not matter. But how you carry yourself is what will open the doors for you. A lot of people think that we are a ATM machine. We've been taught to pitch, so we start treating people like machines that give us outcomes. People are not something that you just walk in and put your card and your ATM password and then we'll start giving you money. Well, so, but I want to giving it. Uh, so the point is, the only outcome that would come out of is how the relationship was maintained. How those right questions were asked and how you knew when to create that healthy boundary with those people. And you need to be able to know when to stop dropping. Because we have noticed that, people tend to cross the boundary line, like I'm right in the red dot. They don't understand that, that maybe less is more. Sometimes they overcompensate, and that's exactly what they don't need to do. And uh, neediness repels is what I already highlighted earlier. Because we as a community have always felt that we want to be people pleasers, but we have never learned how to say no because we feel that we'll be on the losing end. Trust me, you won't be on the losing end because that might be your curiosity to think that I have to keep pushing. That will definitely push you away from those people. So you cannot, as I highlighted earlier, make a withdrawal before you've made a single deposit. And the deposit here is how have you contributed to the relationship that you're trying to build with me? Because you would ask me something like, sir, how was your experience when you were starting your very first startup? Rather than saying, oh, how much money had you made? What car do you drive? What watch do you wear? These are the most repellent questions that you would ask. So you have to be curious. You have to be able to do the homework on the person that you're going to meet or wanting to be mentored by or, you know, be able to get help from them. So trust has to be earned and respect also has to be earned, right? So the same way, uh, it's the principle of deposit and stop asking for value. Start discovering value in others. I would like to take an example of why I am using the ATM machine versus the metal detector. Um, when you go to, and I am sure many of you don't really go to ATMs anymore since we're living in a digital economy. Uh, in an ATM machine, you would put a card, the money would come out. Why I'm talking about the metal detector part, I'm sure a lot of you, when you go to the malls, the security guard scans you. So the philosophy I'm using here is that you need to be like that metal detector. You need to scan that person that you're wanting to be in his network. You need to be able to know their life's journey. You need to be able to know their highs and lows, not just the good side of them. Why? Because the successful people have failed 99% of the time. What you see is just the 1%. It's actually like that glacier. We only see the tip, but the biggest part of the glacier is right under the water. But we as human beings get influenced by just that tips. You don't know it took them so many years to go through so much of hardship, failure. And trust me, failure is the best thing that can happen to you. So please know that failure is your learning curve. Please fail, but not in your passive, of course. Make sure you pass because that's your safety net, okay? Everybody is not privileged enough to be able to be a school dropout or a college dropout and make it to the top. So have that safety net. We want to take any risks in life. Hence, don't be an ATM machine, be a metal detector. As per the Harvard Business School, the most likable people are not the most impressive. They ask better follow-up questions. So if you've already met that person once, try to go to those events that you know they would be because they would always update their online network, social networks. So try to be in those places. Try to get familiarized with your phrase. Maybe in the initial first few meetings, you may not be approached by that person, but maybe after 10th meeting to the event that you went,
you'll be more visible because that person will start seeing the fact that you're making that effort, right? So that visibility will make sense. And once you meet that, know what your follow-up question is going to be. Since the current times, the goldfish attention span has kicked in, which means that people have a very short attention span of just 3 seconds. So try not to do that. Make sure to remember the last conversation you had with them and also know the updates of their life in terms of career, not personal life. And that's how you create a curiosity in the person you want to be. And your curiosity then will turn into the currency which you're expecting out of him or her. So make sure you have the right follow-up questions in life. Uh, it's actually a fact as per the Harvard Business Review that 83% of the people fail to understand this concept. And most big breakthroughs come from weak ties, not close connections. And I know you must have come across a lot of people, hey man, I'll reload this guy. I just make a call, the work will be done. Trust me, 99% of the times the work is never done. I'm sure you guys have experienced it, right? Oh wait, I'm just gonna call him and it's gonna give you a good discount. Don't be those people. Okay? Trust me, you get work or the network or whatever you want from the connections that you never really expected in your life. And it's the close ones who never really would help you, unfortunately. The life is very vanity centric, which is projected to you, but in reality, it's way up here. The sooner you understand that fact, the sooner you will be more realistic. As we highlighted earlier, you don't be a people pleaser, and that does not mean you have to be low. Because once you stop being the people pleaser, you become the authentic person. Because we as human beings have two personality. One, which we really are. Second is the one that we show to the wife. Hence, the conflict comes inside of you, right? So try to break that conflict because once you start living the realist life, not the real life on the Instagram, trust me, you cut down on a lot of stress in your life and on a lot of trauma because that will also change your energy around you. Because you sometimes don't you say that, oh, I'm not getting a good vibe from me. Oh, I'm getting great vibe from me. So the aura only comes around you when you start believing in the self that you really are. But obviously with the right healthy boundaries that you need to have. As I highlighted earlier in the talk, the right body language, how you communicate, how you respect and honor life. And even if you have disagreements with people, know how to communicate it rather than overreacting. Since our audience is very young, so that's why I wanted to discuss this so that you become the future leaders of our country with the right approach. And I was telling one of the volunteers that I did not have this exposure that you have. Your generation has an overload of knowledge, overload of information. So keep your blinders on. Know who you need to follow. Know what information makes more sense to you. Keep following that line. Don't try to have 10 different things because there is a say if you put your feet in two different boats, you're a history, man. Okay? Moving on, I have a few rules that I wanted to discuss with you. If you want to crack this code, or as we call it, the hack, kill the Google question or the artificial intelligence. Obviously, if you're going to search me, my information is there. But don't try to Google it. Don't try to ask the GPTs of the world, how do I go about asking Khalid Wani the right kind of questions so that I can crack into his network? Trust me, man, we all know when you're using the GPT tool because I'm a dinosaur, man, by age. So I've probably seen many different generations, my previous, myself, and the next, and the alpha ones. So the point is, try to be as authentic as you can. Don't try to take shortcuts because shortcuts are called short for a reason because the outcomes are also going to be. Okay? So it's better to create that curiosity through that. And from fan to peer, when you meet anybody in our position, don't try to be a fanboy or a fangirl. Contain your excitement. The right approach is your composure. Try to be to peer, okay? Try to be someone who takes inspiration. So the right question shifts you from the admiration to a conversation. I understand in that moment you might feel super excited, dizzy in your stomach, the butterflies, but try to take a deep breath. Relax. Because once you stop running behind the butterfly and sit peacefully, the butterfly will come and sit on you. And that's the life, okay? And rule number 2 is ask for friction and not favors. Because you might just slip back if you try to run behind them. And don't ask for favors because then you're in debt for life. So don't ask for help. Ask for insights that challenge you. Because then the other person understands this guy or girl is very, very serious about themselves. They are able to understand what they are asking out of their life, which is going to give them a bigger outcome in their life. And invite them in, where you ask for criticism, constructive one, obviously, you turn people into collaborators. And trust me, people in higher positions are not arrogant. They are not unapproachable. They're very much approachable. But then you have to also understand that the same number of people is hurt into 1,000. So it becomes very exhausting for people. So to be able to stand out in that crowd amongst the people wearing white, and if you wear red, obviously you stand out. So keep that in mind. Instead of chasing, request for a constructive feedback or a criticism and say that I would love to collaborate. Feature. And rule number 3, target the unseen. Talk about what others are not seeing, not what everyone is already discussing. Because as I highlighted earlier, if you wear red amongst the white, you'll stand out, right? So you need to be able to have the right kind of approach in terms of what you discuss. So after the session, you're most welcome to experiment what I'm teaching you right now. And let's give it a shot, right? Change your questions most importantly. So, you know, as kids, we were taught, why aren't you asking questions? And as adults, we're asked not to ask questions. We've all experienced that, right? So don't lose the inner child because that innocence makes you authentic. Once we grow old, we tend to shape ourselves as per the world because they're pressurizing us to change. So don't change yourself. And that's why the stress level becomes zero. It'll vanish. Uh, Thank you so much, Ryan.